Hello everyone, for Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Thanks for joining us. Oil workers in 5 states in Brazil have started a strike to protest against moves to privatize the state-controlled oil company, Petrobras. Now, they are also demanding a 10% wage increase to adjust for inflation and the maintenance of maintain the rights that have been altered by the company. The workers want a review of a plan to sell assets worth $15 billion in the coming years. Now, Petrobras has already announced the sale of 49% of its gas branch, Gaspetro, to a Japanese company. The National Oil Workers Federation, representing 12 unions, said it will join the strike, which will continue until a workers' assembly is held on Friday afternoon. Women groups and social movements took to the streets of Rio de Janeiro to demand the resignation of Congressional President Eduardo Cunha for promoting a reform of the law providing care for victims of sexual violence. Now, the project, which has already been approved by a congressional committee, denies women the access to the morning after pill and similar substances. About 5,000 protesters also demanded Cunha's resignation for his involvement in a corruption scandal after being found that he has 5 bank accounts in tax havens. And a huge fire that has been burning in the Brazilian Amazon for 2 months is threatening the existence of about 12,000 members of remote indigenous tribes. Now, the fire has destroyed at least 45% of the forest in the 413,000 hectare Ariboia Indigenous Reserve in Maranhão State. Now, authorities say it may have been started by illegal loggers invading the territory. About 250 firefighters are trying to control the blaze. Venezuelans are mobilizing for a signature campaign in support of the democratic process ahead of December's National Assembly elections. The government signed a document in which it promises to respect the results of the elections, but the opposition so far has refused to sign. Now, the signatures are accompanied by a mass Twitter campaign in which Twitter users are asked to tweet with the hashtag #ISignForPeace.
So tomorrow we'll head to the squares, to the red points, to the streets, house by house, having the people sign. We're going to use Twitter, #ISignForPeace, tomorrow at 11 a.m. And on Friday, we'll start to activate social movements in each of the circuits in order to defend peace, democracy, and the proposal that Chavez made.
Ecuador's President Rafael Correa debated with 3 opposition economists in a face-off that essentially boiled down to his socialism against their neoliberalism. Now, Correa argued against the country's old IMF-imposed economic policies. He said the socialist structure has succeeded in reducing poverty while making the country one of the 5 least indebted in Latin America. He listed a number of other achievements in favor of the majorities throughout the last 8 years, including greater inclusion.
What affects us is to be benefiting the United States. Despite the huge adversities, we have carried out an excellent effort to protect employment. We have invested in social programs such as health, education, and others. It's completely false we are in crisis.
Now, Correa also argued that in spite of the country's dollarization, the Ecuadorian economy has remained strong.
The truth is that, despite the adversity we've had to face with a straitjacket called dollarization, we have done extremely well. Employment has been taken care of. Poverty has not increased. Inequity has not increased in either. The country's strength goes on, and this is not reflected just in cold macroeconomic figures, but in many other subjects, such as infrastructure, education, health, etc.
The FARC rebel movement's repeated calls for a bilateral ceasefire may have an answer soon. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos announced Wednesday that the ceasefire could be a reality by January 1st if the two sides can reach an agreement on the fifth point of their peace talks, the disarmament and demobilization of rebel fighters. Santos urged the FARC to speed up the process.
Let's make the effort so that by December 31st, we can finish the agenda point on the end of the conflict and be able to declare a bilateral, internationally monitored ceasefire from January 1st.
Members of Colombia's left-wing Patriotic Union Party held a demonstration on Wednesday denouncing what they have called vote stealing during the recent local and regional elections. Now, they have also demanded a recount of votes. Our correspondent Natalia Margarita now reports from the capital, from Bogota.
The violence against the Patriotic Union political party has not just led to the assassination of some 4,000 of its members during the 80s, but also forced the few survivors into exile. Aida Bella is among those who returned, hoping that the peace process might offer guarantees of political participation, but the electoral fraud they are now denouncing seems to be showing the opposite is true.
This is all about an alternative weapon. They are no longer using their guns against us, but rather trying to make us invisible and politically exterminate us by means of stealing our votes. And if this fraud is happening right here in the capital, we don't even want to imagine what they have done in rural municipalities.
The alert of fraud came after no Patriotic Union votes were reported in the polling stations where its supporters cast ballots. Then it turned out that the name of the party was excluded from the sheets where the votes are supposed to be registered for consolidation.
What that means is what we have always said, that there is no real democracy in this country. We have a democracy only on paper. Our democracy is just for the elites, but not for all of those who are excluded.
As a political party that was itself a product of peace negotiations, the Patriotic Union members believe that the electoral fraud is sending a negative message to the peace process in Havana, especially as what is currently being discussed there is the guarantees of political participation for those expected to lay down arms.
It is necessary that the state and society in general show a real commitment towards the construction of political participation for peace, to guarantee the participation of alternative sectors so that we are not just allowed to remain alive, but also be respected and provide guarantees for political and electoral activities.
The Patriotic Union has announced legal actions against the electoral bodies both in Colombia and internationally, as they are not willing to let themselves once again be politically exterminated. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogotá.
The International Criminal Court will not investigate the coup in Honduras that ousted elected President Manuel Zelaya in 2009. Now, the tribunal ruled that the crimes committed after the coup do not constitute crimes against humanity, since they do not, quote, amount to a policy to commit an attack against the civilian population. Therefore, the ICC has decided it does not have jurisdiction to investigate. The international experts investigating the disappearance of the Ayotzinapa student in Mexico will be able to continue to work on the case for at least another 6 months. On Wednesday, the Washington-based group accepted a proposal made by the Mexican government that allows them to stay in the country for another year. Now, the possibility of a further extension was not ruled out. The interdisciplinary group of independent experts presented a preliminary report dismantling the government's version of what happened to the students. Still to come on From the South, a controversial human rights award from the European Parliament. We'll tell you who got it and why when we come back.
The truth behind the power. We lift the lid on some of the world's most ruthless figures. Open file. Only on telesurtv.net in English. Wherever the news, you'll be there. An insight into Africa today. With Bill Fletcher. The Global African. Only on telesurtv.net in English. Wherever the news, you'll be there. We need to understand the world we live in. We require news with critical points of view, thorough analysis and social commitment. This This information is vital to think, to understand, and to change. The world demands a new perspective. telesurtv.net/English. Wherever the news, you'll be there.
The U.S. House of Representatives has elected Republican Paul Ryan as its new speaker. The 45-year-old conservative replaces John Boehner, who wielded the speaker's gavel for 4 turbulent years there. He had announced last month he would be stepping down by this Friday. The new speaker helped steer budget and tax policy in Congress. He has said that he would only accept the post if the divided Republican factions unified behind him. And the Republican Party is still struggling to identify a presidential candidate. The hopefuls held their 3rd debate on Wednesday night, and it seems it was sort of a fierce one. Our correspondent Jorge Gestoso has the latest on that debate, and he joins us now. So when we say it was a fierce one, is that a good analysis there, Jorge? What were some of the attacks, and what were the candidates saying?
Well, Cody, same old, same old. The government has to be absolutely minimal. The government should not basically interfere in the life of the big corporations. Taxes should be low. The government of the Democrats, it's just spending, spending, spending. And basically was more of the same. Was not really, even though the subject of the debate was about the economy and the economic plans that each of the 10 candidates that they were discussing, they were supposed to present. There was really nothing new, and mostly what they repeat is a neoliberal recipe that has given this country something like a 19 at this point, $19 trillion debt. And basically, they're also saying that the government has to be very strong in security, that, for example, Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, say that that police has to be strong, and he was disagreeing that exists police brutality, that the citizens have the right to wear guns. So everything that has, if you want, put this country in the very difficult situation that it is, where inequality has grown at the levels never seen before, that was absolutely normal, and there was the agenda that the Republicans once more was pushing for.
And if you allow me to sort of switch subjects, same party but different subject here, Jorge, Paul Ryan will be the next Speaker of the House. What does that mean for the party? I know they were having some trouble finding someone who would actually run for that post.
Big trouble, exactly, Cody. And he has been, I assume, the position just a couple of hours ago. What it really means is that Paul Ryan, in his first remarks at the House of Representatives, has saying the House of Representatives is broken. He used that word. So now his big challenge is unite. The party himself, his own party, the Republican Party himself, big war, because the name of what is going on is war between the, if you want, pragmatists and the hardliners. Hardliners, we're talking about Tea Party members like Marco Rubio, like Ted Cruz, people that we have seen precisely last night in the debate, and the more, if you want, again, pragmatists. And on top of that, the big feuds that the partisan feuds between Republicans and Democrats. So he has a big challenge, try to conciliate, try to put together his own party that is really at this very moment very dysfunctional, and also try to create a message that could be appealing for the voters for 2016.
And we know that that war was one of the reasons that the former speaker decided to step down, John Boehner. All right, Jorge Gestoso, thanks so much for joining us. giving us that analysis on the latest on the Republican Party there in the United States. And moving on now, the month-long spate of attacks in Palestine and Jerusalem is showing no signs of subsiding, as 2 more Palestinians have been shot and killed in the West Bank. A military spokeswoman said a military spokeswoman said one of the assailants stabbed an Israeli soldier in the head at a military checkpoint near a religious site in Hebron. However, this account was disputed by a Palestinian teacher who said he witnessed the incident. Now, according to the witness, the youth was, quote, executed by Israeli forces.
The youth was walking toward the checkpoint holding nothing when a sudden soldier, he's black, shot him in his shoulder and stomach. Then the youth fell on the ground. He was holding nothing at all. We wanted to help the youth, but the Israeli occupation forces came toward us, and they started to shoot on us. At the same time, the soldier who started the shooting walked close to the youth and executed him from the zero distance. He shot him in the head.
Families of recently killed Palestinians held a press conference in Ramallah where they demanded the return of their relatives' bodies. Now, withholding the bodies of attackers has become one of the approved series of measures by the Israeli government. Palestinian organizations say the bodies of 25 attackers and an Israeli Arab have not been returned to families. They are among 61 killed since October 1st. On Wednesday, in the outskirts town of Morek, located in the Hama province, fighting between the Syrian Arab Army and militant groups continued. Now, the army shelled militant positions before advancing with infantry troops on the ground to secure the surrounding area. Morek is a strategic town that was entirely gutted in 2014 during fighting between rebel forces and the government. Syrian troops continue to make gains on the ground throughout the country, with the extensive support of Russian airstrikes. All eyes are on Vienna as diplomats are holding talks on the crisis in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry arrived to Austria earlier this Thursday, where he was reported to have a round of talks with Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Now, on Friday, rival regional powers Iran and Saudi Arabia will be part of a second day of talks that will include more countries. For Saudi Arabia, these talks are an opportunity to check the seriousness of Iran and Russia on a negotiated political solution to the Syrian conflict. The low global oil prices have forced Iraq to cut its defense budget, but the country still plans to hire additional paramilitary troops in its fight against Islamic State group militants.
I think we gave them this year about 10,000 new recruits.
Right.
Okay, which they have requested, but they have their budget within the security forces, and part of this 20% that I referred to them, really they will get their share out of that.
Some residents in the northern Pakistan areas of Shangla and Mingora are complaining that there has been a lack of aid after hundreds of homes were destroyed by Monday's earthquake. Now, the 7.5 magnitude earthquake has reportedly killed more than 300 people and has left thousands more to spend the night outdoors in the open in near freezing temperatures. Now, according to Pakistani media, people are reluctant to return to their homes for fear of aftershocks. Pakistani rescue authorities said they were optimistic about the ongoing relief operations to help the victims. Saudi blogger Raif Badawi has been awarded the European Parliament's Sakharov Human Rights Prize. Now, the blogger was convicted of insulting Islam and disobeying his father in 2012 and sentenced to 10 years in jail and 1,000 lashes. The president of the European Parliament urged Saudi King Salman to free the blogger so he could receive his prize in person in December. Thousands of people remain stranded in the frontier of Berkasovo-Bapska, located between Serbia and Croatia, waiting to be able to continue their journey to Western Europe. We have more on that in our next segment.
An official from the Agency for Refugees in the United Nations informed that thousands of people crossed into Croatia because the frontier in Berkasovo-Babska was open. He added that people are camping in tents and receive some type of help. According to ACNUR, after closing the border between Hungary and Croatia, it caused the refugees to relocate to Serbia through Slovenia and continue the journey to Germany.
Newly crowned triple world champion Lewis Hamilton is in Mexico City ahead of this weekend's Formula One Mexican Grand Prix. Now Hamilton got into a wrestling ring in Mexico's capital and posed with mariachis for a bit of fun there. No doubt his good spirits can be attributed to his recent achievement. This weekend's race will find the drivers competing on a track at an altitude of over 2,000 meters that will test the cooling efficiency and reliability of the turbo engines to their limits. Barcelona FC player Javier Mascherano has pleaded guilty to 2 counts of tax fraud at a Spanish court after he admitted he did not properly pay his taxes in Spain after moving from Liverpool. The player failed to pay nearly $2 million in taxes he owed for 2011 and 2012. Prosecutors allege that Mascherano sought to conceal money he earned from his image rights through companies set up in Madeira, Portugal, and in the United States. The curtains have come down on St. Lucia's annual celebration of its rich French Creole culture. Now, the island shares this heritage with Dominica, Guadalupe, and Martinique. Known as Creole Heritage Month, the 4-week celebration is a true cultural extravaganza.
Creole sounds and the smell of Creole food coupled with Madras outfits were in full force for the climax of Creole Heritage Month activities on Sunday, which is known as Journée Creole or Creole Day. Bumper crowds came to the communities to be part of the planned activities organized by the country's Folk Research Center. The center's director, Hilary Laforce, says St. Lucians were fully immersed in the celebration of Journée Creole.
We want to push the Creole exhibition to show our young people what we did a long time ago. A man in the community of Labore was turning wood, old-time game, and it was very interesting to make the young people understand our culture and learn our heritage.
Journée Creole is the biggest activity during Creole Heritage Month in October. It is a celebration of Creole music, dance, food, games, and language. Patrons at this year's observances say the Creole culture is alive and well.
I don't know about later on, but right now things are looking good. We have all the food and the people are all here. People are trying the different things the vendors have. The culture looks good today.
Creole Heritage Month is a celebration of the melting pot that is French Creole culture. It is a time when St. Lucians educate the younger generation on the wonderful days gone by. For organizers of the events, it is a nostalgic reminder of all the elements that contribute to the identity of St. Lucians and citizens of those countries that share in the Creole culture. Alison Kentish, Telesur, St. Lucia.
And that's what we're covering on this afternoon here from Caracas. Plenty more on all of those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.